Skeletons of the Marital Closet by Tang. Chapter 1501. Matthew staggered into the room as well. Aram stood at the ward's entrance, gazing at the hands blocking his way. "Mr. Wood, can't I enter?" he said. "Why are you here? Who informed you?" "No one informed me. I just happened to be visiting Matthew," Aram replied. Shawn let out a cold laugh. "I know Natalie was willing to repent, and you pleaded for her the last time. However, Gale refused to forgive her. You felt wronged. Do you still think Gale was wrong now?" Arm clenched and then loosened his fist. "It's because you've been too trusting of Natalie. She deceived you, and you couldn't see her true nature. It's far uglier than you could have imagined. I never expected her to be like this. Otherwise, I wouldn't have pleaded for her. She doesn't deserve it. She's not worth it," Aram replied. Shawn sneered. "You were so eager to vouch for her, weren't you?" Aram remained silent. He had misjudged her. Fortunately, Gale had not agreed to forgive her. Otherwise, the consequences might have been more severe. Matthew and Heather want to save Natalie. I can understand. But your decision won't harm you, but it might harm Gale," Shawn snorted. Aram took a deep breath. "What's the situation now? Is Joshua—" "Natalie said she wants to jump off with him." Aram's heart sank looking at Shawn. "Do you know Joshua's true identity?" "He was Shawn's son, Nicole's brother." Aram had anticipated how agonizing Gale must be at this moment. However, Shawn seemed calmer than he had imagined. "What does it matter? Joshua exchanged himself for Gale's safety and willingly became Natalie's hostage. I will do everything in my power to save him," Shawn retorted. Aram wanted to say more when Gale's screams interrupted them. Shawn's expression changed, and he quickly stepped toward the room. "Gale!" Gale knelt on the floor, hands clasped together, begging, "No, please don't." There were 3 wounds on Joshua's neck already. Blood stained the knife and his clothes. "Natalie, stop! Please stop! Don't hurt him anymore, I beg you," Gale pleaded. Mary knelt beside them. "Natalie, he's just a child. Don't harm him. If you want to kill someone, kill me first." Natalie looked triumphant, holding Joshua, causing agony to so many. "All right, I can stop. Gale, do you remember how I knelt in front of you and Shawn? How I bowed?" she said. Gale gritted her teeth. "I remember." "Okay, then bow to me properly, harder than I did. If I don't say stop, you shouldn't stop," Natalie said. "Fine." Gale did not hesitate, agreeing immediately. Her forehead hit the ground heavily, making a loud thud. Soon, a bump appeared on her forehead. "Gale!" Shawn quickly stepped forward, directly blocking her. How could he bear to watch his beloved suffer like this, endure such torment? Chapter 1502. "Step aside. I can't bear to watch Joshua get hurt again. I'm willing to bow. I'll do it," Gale said, expressionless. Every cut Natalie made on Joshua felt like a stab in her heart. The wounds on the child hurt the mother even more. Shawn crouched in front of her and said, "You don't need to do this." Gale looked at him. "I'll do it. Get up, Gale," Shawn said. Gale did not move. Shawn, usually high and mighty, has never bowed to anyone before. A man's knees were made for precious moments. She felt that this was something she should handle. He should not need to debate himself. "No, I'll do it." Gale pushed his hand away. "Natalie asked me to bow, not you." Fortunately, Natalie had not asked Shawn to do such a thing. Otherwise, Gale would have felt even worse. Unexpectedly, as this thought flashed through her mind, Natalie shouted. Enough. Stop arguing, both of you bow. Keep bowing to me until I'm satisfied. Gale felt a wave of despair and closed her eyes. Her worst fear had come true. No, Natalie, I'll do it. I'll bow with Gale, Mary quickly said. Shut up. Keep arguing and you'll both be thrown out. I don't want to see you. Natalie did not bother with her. Gale knelt straight. Natalie, you've humiliated me enough. This is between you and me. Shawn has always supported you. Otherwise, how could you so confidently trample on me? Ha! If both of you bow to my satisfaction, I won't disfigure his face. When the time is right, I'll jump out of the window holding him. Natalie laughed. This way, at least his corpse will look good, right? When you collect Joshua's body, at least it won't be completely disfigured. Each word felt like salt on Gale's wounds. Shawn did not speak, and he just looked at Heather and Matthew. Heather took a step forward. Natalie. Stop! Who let you in here? Natalie said. I'm your mother. Can't you trust me? Heather asked. Do you think I don't know you are here on behalf of them? I'm your mother. Don't you trust me? You are here to mediate. I know that much. I don't want to see you. Natalie looked at her in the eye. I'm not your daughter. I'm not a bastard. Fine, fine. You can disown me, but I want to tell you, now that you've taken a hostage, you have leverage. You can negotiate with Mr. Wood. Why choose to jump and seek death? Heather said. Natalie retorted. Do you think I still have a way out? Yes, Natalie, let's leave together. I will be with you wherever you go. After we're safe, release this brat. Heather nodded. Heather had been planning. You need a helicopter first on the hospital rooftop. You can take Joshua and board the helicopter, landing at the harbor in Sea City. Then, let Mr. Wood arrange a yacht for you. We'll board the yacht and head directly abroad. Most importantly, we can extort a sum of money. Heather got more excited as she spoke. Getting a massive settlement with her daughter and leaving Sea City for a new life was exhilarating. At this moment, she had no attachment to Matthew. Men could not be trusted. Before Natalie could speak, Shawn spoke. Yes, I can give you money. How much do you want? Chapter 1503. Heather was overjoyed at the prospect. It was just what she wanted. After all, Mr. Wood had plenty of money. Natalie, tell me, how much do you want? I think $20 million should be enough, Heather said, her face full of anticipation. Are you stupid? However, Natalie's words were once again cut short by Shawn. I'll give you $40 million. Did you hear that? It's more than enough for a lifetime, Heather said. Over the years, Heather had estimated the money Matthew had spent on her, including the house and the car, to be around $20 million. Now, Shawn had casually offered $40 million. Natalie sneered. A mistress would always just be a mistress, short-sighted and brainless. A helicopter? Yacht? Going abroad? $40 million? She probably would not have a place to bury herself as soon as she boarded the yacht and released Joshua. Having all the money without her life would be pointless. Heather truly lacked perspective and insight. Yes, $40 million would be enough. Unfortunately, I don't plan to spend it. I don't want to live anymore. Living has no meaning for me. Natalie nodded. She sought more than just money. She wanted status, position, love, and adoration. She preferred death now. She could never get them. Oh, you fool! Why are you not listening to me? Leave! Heather patted her thigh repeatedly. Natalie was getting a headache from her incessant chatter. Shut up! Heather looked at Shawn, then fell silent. She wanted $40 million. The $40 million I mentioned is in Nautica dollars, Shawn spoke calmly. Heather's eyes widened at this revelation. That meant over $1 billion CCT dollars. Shawn was unexpectedly generous. I can transfer it now, and a helicopter can be arranged immediately. A yacht, too. Whatever you want, I can provide, Shawn said. Giving Heather and Natalie no chance to speak, Shawn shouted, Fiona! Here, Mr. Wood! Fiona, who had been waiting outside, immediately walked in. Transfer 40 million Nautica dollars. What's your account number? Shawn instructed, looking at Heather. The surprise came too suddenly for Heather. Was this real? She was ecstatic. Mr. Wood, this is perfect. You let my daughter and me go, and we release this child. It's a win-win situation for everyone. As she spoke, she quickly handed her bank card to Fiona. Fiona noted down the card number and left the room. Everyone's attention was captivated by the 40 million Nautica dollars. Natalie was also distracted, and she stopped demanding them to bow. For Shawn, spending some money to spare Gale from this humiliation was well worth it. Chapter 1504. It was worth it. In less than 2 minutes, Heather's phone chimed. She checked and immediately exclaimed, It's here! It's here! 40 million Nautica dollars! It's real, Natalie! Look! Heather showed Natalie her phone. We're rich! We'll never have to bow to anyone for the rest of our lives. She had never seen so much money in her entire life. Natalie looked at Heather with disdain. Money was indeed crucial, but many things could not be bought with it, such as identity, status, and respect. Natalie had mingled in the socialite circles of CCT for so long, having good relations with those wealthy young ladies who looked down upon the daughters of nouveau rich families. Socialite circles valued lineage and family, not the amount of money one had. So, I'm worth 40 million Nautica dollars. Uncle Shawn, couldn't you have given a higher amount? Joshua grumbled. Natalie was taken aback. What did you say? Didn't you hear? I'm only worth that much, Joshua repeated. Are you really concerned about this now? Shouldn't you be worrying about whether you can survive and see the sun tomorrow? Joshua remained silent, just giving Shawn a glance. He naturally trusted Shawn. He knew Uncle Shawn would not let anything happen to him. Although he was injured, they were minor wounds that could be treated. Shawn was already figuring out a way to rescue him. Joshua intentionally brought up the money to divert attention from himself and Natalie. The pain from his wounds was intense, and he wanted to talk about something other than his injuries. Hey, Uncle Shawn, did you hear that? Do I have to say it a third time? Joshua shouted. I heard you. So what do you think you're worth? Shawn replied. At least add another zero. 400 million Nautica dollars? Joshua nodded. Yes, I am your only son, and will take over the company for you in the future. It's quite challenging, deserving of a $400 million net worth, don't you think? Shawn looked at him. You are priceless. Cut the crap. You sweet-talk me, but you only transferred $40 million to her. Heather was dumbfounded. She had heard of people rejecting a high ransom, but never complained about a low one. The mindset of wealthy people was truly beyond her understanding. It's already in the account. They asked for that. Should I have given more, Heather? Shawn said. Yes, Mr. Wood. In 20 minutes, a helicopter will land on the rooftop. Do you and Natalie want to leave? Without hesitation, Heather replied, Yes. Fool, it's not that easy, Natalie scolded. Having a hostage makes it easy. Natalie, let's go. With the money in hand, we can save ourselves, Heather said. She quickly approached Natalie, who instantly became guarded. Why are you even here? Natalie yelled. Chapter 1505.
The whole world might harm you, but I won't. I'm here to help. Come on, let's go to the rooftop, Heather said. She looked sincere. Get lost. You only make things worse. I don't want to leave, and I don't want to live. I want to die with Joshua. I want Gale to lose her son forever, to suffer for a lifetime. That's more important to me than 40 million Nautica dollars. Heather wanted to say something, but Natalie grabbed Joshua's shoulder and stood up. Joshua had lost a lot of blood. His vision was blurred, and he could not see clearly. Besides, he was very weak. He had no strength left to fight back. Finally, Joshua started to cry. It hurts. It hurts so much. Although he was trying to divert their attention before, he was still a kid after all. The fact that he held on bravely until now was truly commendable. Big Beauty, it hurts. Am I? Is this the end? He tilted his head and leaned on Natalie's arm. Natalie, finding him heavy, pushed him away. Don't act dead, Gale exclaimed. Natalie, don't push him around recklessly. Why so nervous? He's in pain now, but soon he won't feel anything, because the dead don't feel pain. What are you planning to do? I have already told you. Is your memory that bad? You forget as soon as I turn my head? Saying this, Natalie moved toward the window. Heather asked, Natalie, are you really going to die with Joshua? Of course. Don't do something stupid. Natalie, you're my only daughter. If you're gone, what's the point of me living? All along, Natalie had been Heather's only motivation. She was willing to follow Matthew silently, waiting for Natalie to grow up and acknowledge her. There was hope for her to show her face in polite society one day. Heather stood there in a daze. No, Natalie, death is not worth it. Gale's heart was breaking. Shawn, what should we do? Think of a way quickly. She weakly pulled his sleeve. Her tears already dried up. This is over 30 floors. Once they jumped, it's really over. Their bones will be shattered. Shawn, holding her shoulders, said, If they go to the window, we might be able to rescue them. What do you mean? Isn't Natalie planning to jump with Joshua? I know. Snipers are already in position on the opposite side. When there's a clear line of sight, they'll shoot. There are people ready to rescue along the windows on each floor. The trampoline is also laid out on the floor. However, every solution was just as terrifying as the last. Sniper shooting? What if Natalie gets hit? What about Joshua? Gale asked. Is it very dangerous? Only one way to find out. No, I don't want to take the risk. Joshua must be safe, Shawn replied. There's an 80 chance of success, Gale. Chapter 1506. That was the best survival rate he could offer? Gale shook her head repeatedly. Only just 80? Shawn, do you realize that even a 0.01% failure rate could lead to Joshua's death? You didn't give it your all. If it were me kidnapped right away, would you initiate a rescue operation with only an 80% chance of success? Gale said. Shawn had nothing to say. After a while, he responded. That's why I can only be grateful that the hostage isn't you. Gale's body trembled. Meanwhile, Natalie had climbed onto the window sill with Joshua. The window was wide open. Natalie's hair was disheveled from the strong winds, resembling a female ghost. Gale's skirt and Shawn's shirt fluttered in the wind, accompanied by the whistling sound. The wind carried Natalie's laughter far. Finally, I'm about to succeed. As long as I take one leap, everything will be over. All over. I, Natalie, have never feared death. What I fear is dying alone. Now, someone is keeping me company. I'm not alone. Hey, Joshua, are you going to faint? Just a little blood and you can't handle it? She shouted. Joshua was now semi-conscious.
able to hear what was being said with little strength to respond. Even opening his eyes was challenging. Have you ever tried bungee jumping? Later, we'll experience a sensation of jumping together. It's almost like bungee jumping, just without a rope, Natalie asked. It's thrilling, Joshua. You should open your eyes and truly feel the sensation of free falling. Joshua kept murmuring, It hurts, hurts. It will stop hurting soon. Natalie glanced down. It was high. The people below looked like ants, and the towering trees seemed insignificant. She saw the trampoline and police officers in uniform bustling around. Still thinking about saving Joshua? With or without the trampoline, the impact will kill you, Natalie sneered. She looked at the knife in her hand and said, To ensure nothing goes wrong, I should make sure Joshua is on the brink of death. Then we can jump together. Gale's face was filled with despair. How should she save him? Natalie sat with Joshua on the windowsill, ready to fall with just a slight tilt of her body. She remained vigilant, not exposing her back, but sitting sideways, leaning against the window frame and constantly keeping Joshua in front of her. The snipers could not take a shot. Natalie and Joshua were too close to each other. At this moment, by the window upstairs, two bodyguards stood quietly, wearing safety gear. Chapter 1507. They were ready to climb down directly from the window and launch the rescue operation. The safety rope around their waist was the only thing preventing their death. On these high floors, taking on this task was impossible without strong mental resilience and agile skills. Bodyguard Pearton discreetly glanced down. He could see Natalie exposing half of her body. Quickly, Pearton withdrew his gaze and checked his safety equipment. A teammate beside him nudged his arm, communicating softly. See anything? Natalie is already at the window edge. It looks very dangerous, Pearton replied. Our two men below her are also ready. We are just waiting for Mr. Wood's command, the teammate said. Pearton pondered for a few seconds. It's difficult for the ones below to act. Climbing is challenging, but if we climb down, it will be easier, the teammate replied. Don't act on your own. Let's wait for his command. Looking around and seeing everyone outside the door, the teammate spoke even more quietly. Well, if we succeed, it will be eternal glory. If it goes wrong, we can't be blamed. We did our best, and the culprit is Natalie. I heard that the kidnapped child is Mr. Wood's son. When did Mr. Wood have another son? Mrs. Wood is crying uncontrollably. What a mess. Poor boy, what a shame to encounter this. Pearton remained silent. The teammate asked again. I heard that you were with Mrs. Wood for a while as her personal bodyguard. Yes, Mrs. Wood. She's a very kind and gentle person. Pearton nodded. She was a very low-key, amiable, and had dimples when she smiled. Pearton, after Mrs. Wood faked her death at sea, you were transferred back to the team. The rumor in the team was that you had great luck. Otherwise, if something happened to Mrs. Wood when she jumped into the sea, you, her personal bodyguard, would face severe punishment. However, nothing happened to you. Pearton lowered his head, memory slowly surfacing in his mind. Mrs. Wood's suicide shocked the entire sea city. Mr. Wood was grief-stricken, aging overnight. However, Pearton could return to the team unscathed, continuing his work, all thanks to Mrs. Wood. When Mr. Wood appointed Pearton to Mrs. Wood, he explicitly stated as long as Madam was here, he was here. If Madam was not here, he would suffer the consequences. Mrs. Wood did not want to involve him and did not want him to be punished. On the day she jumped into the sea, she secretly sent him away. At the last moment, she even pleaded for him in front of Mr. Wood. Because of this, Pearton could smoothly return to the bodyguard team. It's all because Mrs. Wood cared. Otherwise, I would have been kicked out long ago, Pearton said. Bodyguards like them had miserable pasts, being either orphans with no parents or beggars living on the streets, homeless and destitute. They could only become bodyguards for the Wood family, enjoying free meals, accommodation, and a considerable salary. They only had brawn, along with the skills and abilities honed through years of training. For many years, Pearson had always remembered Mrs. Wood's favor. When he learned that Mrs. Wood was still alive, he was so delighted. He knew such a wonderful person would not be taken away so easily. To steal a glance at Mrs. Wood, Pearson even volunteered to take over another guard's shift at Temperley Hall and watched Mrs. Wood from a distance. He was content. Chapter 1508. Mrs. Wood's son was in danger. Pearson must go to rescue him. He was willing to risk his life to save him. He wanted to repay the debt. As he was thinking about it, the captain gestured at the door, signaling them to stand by and not act recklessly. Pearson and his teammates nodded simultaneously. At this moment, a cry came from downstairs, followed by the sudden sound of a child crying. What was going on? Pearson's heart tightened, and he immediately ran to the window to look down. He saw Natalie's body already hanging halfway, ready to fall at any moment. The child she was holding, Joshua, was crying. Natalie had broken Joshua's wrist. "You dare to bite me! Ah, you little bastard! With only one breath left, you still think about resisting? Biting me? So what? You weak kid! You didn't even leave a bite mark!" Natalie scolded. "If you dare to move again, I'll break your other hand too." Joshua's arm hung weakly at his side, swaying without any strength. The pain from forcibly breaking the wrist was something a normal adult could not bear, let alone Joshua. There was a huge difference in their physical strength. Gale could not help taking a step forward. "Joshua!" Her voice was utterly hoarse. She shouted with all her strength, but it sounded very, very faint. So faint that only Shawn, standing beside her, could hear clearly. "Wake up! Wake up! You're about to die. You have to look at your mom and dad and say your last words." Natalie slapped Joshua's little face without mercy. "This way. Every time they visit you at your grave, they will remember what you said before you died. Do you hear me, Joshua?" Was he really going to die? No way. Why did not Shawn save him? Joshua struggled to open his eyes. Her vision blurred for a while before gradually clearing. "Big beauty. I'm fine. Not afraid. I don't hurt at all." Natalie forcibly woke him up. His mind was muddled, and his body was swaying weakly, which was distressing to watch. The fall was long. His incessant swaying put everyone on edge. If Natalie did not hold on to him tightly, he could fall. "Hurry up! I'll give you one more minute. I don't want to wait any longer. I'm about to let you experience the feeling of flying." "Are you happy?" Natalie urged. Joshua's eyes were half opened, trying hard to see Gale's appearance clearly. Gale moved forward again. "Joshua." She did not dare to get too close, fearing to provoke Natalie. "Mommy, actually, I love you very, very much. I really like being your son." He rarely called Gale Mommy, always calling her Big Beauty. Chapter 1509. No matter how others tried to correct how he referred to her, he did not stop. Mommy was the most precious treasure in this life. His little treasure was Nicole, his sister. He was her big brother, responsible for protecting his baby sister. Hearing him call Mommy, Gale knelt down with a thud. Could this be their final farewell? "If there is another life, I still want to be your son," Joshua said, smiling. His smile resembled Shawn's. "You are a great and wonderful mommy. If I die, I know you'll be sad for me,
You'll remember me and you'll come to see me every year. But, Mommy, you have to live well, okay? Don't be too sad because of me. You and Shawn can have more children. You're still young. Nicole can have a big brother. Goodbye, Mommy. And Dad? Dad? Saying this, Joshua grinned, revealing teeth stained with blood. Joshua was always remembered what Nicole told him about Daddy's strength. He could lift her with one hand and even carry her over his head. She could sit on Daddy's shoulders, and it felt like she could fly. Daddy would firmly hold her hand, and she would not be afraid at all. When Joshua heard Nicole described it this way, he wondered when Daddy could lift him high or let him sit on Daddy's shoulders to see the world. He was looking forward to it. He was also a child longing for paternal love. It was just that he did not expect that his wish might never come true. You can be sad for me, but don't be sad for me all the time. He was so sensible that it was heartbreaking. Even Natalie was stunned. In his last moments, this intelligent child cared more about not causing excessive grief to his parents than about his own life and death. Why does Gale get everything good in this world? A long silence. Is it finished? Natalie was the first to return to her senses. If it's finished, let's hit the road. The moment the word road was uttered, suddenly, Natalie felt a gust of wind pass by. A huge shadow enveloped her. Natalie was startled and quickly looked to the side. She saw a figure in black, a rope hanging from the back, descending from the sky next to her. It was as if they were dropping from the heavens. Ah! Natalie screamed. Before she could react, the person in black swayed forward and kicked her. Seeing this, she tried to dodge, raising the knife in her hand and slashing randomly. However, it was futile. The person in black kicked forcefully, directly kicking Natalie and Joshua away from the window and back into the hospital room. That person in black was Pearton. He had been crouching by the window, watching Natalie's every move, ready to descend at any moment to rescue the young master. At this moment, he could not care less about orders or waiting for instructions. Relying on his judgment and experience, Pearton directly took action. Chapter 1510. If she continued, the young master was as good as dead. Even though the chances were slim, Pearton must try. Trying was the only way. Pearton's sudden appearance catches everyone off guard, and even Shawn's pupils contract in shock at this unexpected turn of events. He did not give the order, so could this bodyguard act on his own. However, Shawn did not have time to dwell on these matters. The events unfolded too quickly, catching everyone off guard. Natalie fell to the ground, her heavy body pressing on Joshua. She was dizzy and disoriented. Pearton's kick was forceful. After a couple of cuffs, Natalie started to cough up blood profusely. Despite spitting blood, Natalie still clung tightly to Joshua's neck, firmly in control and unwilling to let go easily. Seeing this, Shawn immediately rushed forward. The best time to save Joshua was by using the chaos. Given his proximity, Shawn took 3 quick steps to the window and tried to snatch Joshua from Natalie's embrace. "Don't come any closer! Don't come!" Natalie's life continued to swing. "Shawn, let go! Release him!" Her knife stabbed downwards ruthlessly, regardless of the consequences, even if it meant injuring herself. This reckless determination left Shawn unable to act. If this continued, Joshua would be fatally wounded. Shawn's backhand had several wounds inflicted by Natalie's knife, but at that moment it did not matter. Suddenly, Pearton leaps forward and stands steadily on the windowsill. As soon as his feet touched the ground, he reached out and pulled her hair. "Ah!"
Natalie screamed. Pearson held on tightly and did not let go. Natalie instinctively releases her grip on Joshua, one hand covering her hair, the other holding the knife, fiercely stabbing toward Pearson. Shawn seized the opportunity, swiftly stepping forward to cradle Joshua in his arms. Joshua felt limp. His hands swung about loosely as Shawn held him in his arms. Natalie, noticing that, ignored Pearson and rushed toward Shawn urgently. Shawn quickly turned around, shielding Joshua in front of him. Natalie's knife was her best weapon. It was sharp and compact. As she lunged forward, the blade forcefully scraped across Shawn's suit. The suit tore apart. The shirt underneath also ripped open, and blood seeped through. Fortunately, it was just a superficial wound. Shawn could not care less. He had only one thing on his mind: to quickly carry Joshua away. Natalie, seemingly like a mad woman, continued to charge forward. Shawn, of course, would not let her succeed. Pearson was sharp. As he grabbed Natalie's hair with one hand, he reached for her knife with the other. It was crucial to prevent Natalie from continuing to stab. Let go! Let go! Natalie viciously thrust her knife into his hand. The entire blade pierced through Pearson's palm, and then, decisively, Natalie pulled the knife out. Pearson grunted, but he still did not release his grip. However, his strength had diminished significantly. Natalie raised her hand to grab Joshua, but Shawn kept retreating, avoiding her attempts.